All right, back to it. So we're gonna make a form. Is I think where we left off. And this should be really quick, right? So, I think, how do I want to do this? I mean, we can start with this, of course, but we don't want to actually use the stream name as the value. We want to have a separate set of state information internal to the component. For the moments anyway, I think that will make sense. Let's do something called stream info. And we'll start with maybe an empty object. Yeah, let's do that. So let's make an interface, stream info. And I think maybe I'll model it. I'll make it match the actual field names from the Twitch API. Or no. Actually, let's do this. We have a file somewhere, yeah, twitch.ts. And this is where I have like all of the functions that are calling out to Twitch for like our authentication and stuff. So let's do this here. Let's do interface. Yeah, get channel responses actually. Let's see, get channel information response. Right, so we want to provide a wrapper that calls this API, and so So I wonder about something here, right? So this expects us to provide a broadcaster ID. Is there a way to know that? Because we're authenticated, right? Can we find that information? Let's go back to maybe here. Which API health reference, maybe an authentication. There's something about knowing that user ID from the token. Yeah, get channel information shows a request that is using the header. Tokens do expire. Validating tokens. Aha, so when we validate the token, we do get a user ID. Interesting. That is ultimately what this function is doing. So let's rename this to be validated access token. There you go. And that'll propagate that change in other places. And then we're going to make an interface validate access token response. Client ID, login scopes, user ID. Sure. We could do that. I think I might if I'm going to change the behavior of this a little bit, right? So if it's not okay, we'll throw an error. So that's going to change. There we go. All right. So right now we're just calling this in one place, two places. Right, so now we're going to change this around so that we say, actually, if you catch an error, then clear the token. And that actually simplifies things a little bit in a way. And then here, yeah, we just do this, we get rid of that, and then we do effectively the same thing, except we're doing this inside of an async function. So we can just try, and then if there's an error, we just clear token. In the Twitch callback page, when we're getting, like when we land back on this page, and it's a success, right? It's a success because we parsed the return data. And then we can get either authorized success or this right here. Do we get more than the access token? Let's look at this. So we're using the implicit grant flow. So when it comes back, we get an access token, we get a scope, we get a state, and we get a token type bearer. So we don't, for instance, get the broadcaster ID of the user that just logged in. So if we want this to, what I'm thinking about here is it would be really nice when we get the access token if we got the broadcaster ID too. So we just had that. Yeah, we can do that. We'll come back to this. We'll come back to that. Validate access token, and we do take a signal, so that'll be good. So what that should let us do is that when we have an access token, what we can do is we can I make this async, or is it gonna throw a fit? Yeah, we cannot. So we'll just do this as a promise chain, right? So we're gonna do validate access token, which takes the access token, right? But also a signal. So when we do this, let's do this always, right? So we'll say const abort controller, and then signal is that, and then not catch. Then Then we get info. And catch should just be do nothing. I mean, I guess we'll... First of all, that's wrong. We need to store the access token. But if for some reason validating the access token we just got fails, we can clear the access token, I guess, just to be thorough. And then we don't need this anymore. And the reason for the abort controller is because what we can do is we can have the useEffect return a function that will abort the request. So if we have an in-flight request and then our component gets unmounted, this will get called and will abort the in-flight request. So then the other thing I want to do here is that we want to add broadcaster ID. It's info dot user ID. Yeah. Great. Yeah, this doesn't know anything about the type that we're using to in the profile. Boy. Okay, well that'll be in there. I think this is the only place where we're populating this. This is the only place we can populate this because this is the only place we get the access token back is on the Twitch callback page after the redirect back from Twitch from logging in. So we have the user ID there as well now as broadcaster ID. Isn't that convenient? Anyway, so that many side things that we have to look into to keep things moving forward. So get channel information returns a bunch of info. And we want to capture this info. So broadcaster ID, broadcaster login. And just capture it all, right? Because it's information that's being returned. Broadcaster name, broadcaster language, game name and ID title, tags, content classification, location labels, which is an array of strings. Interesting. Yeah, and then is branded. Content. Okay. So is this is not the same thing as the payload that's being passed to modified channel information. Because there is a game ID, but there's not a game name. There are the content classification labels is not a string array. So it's a bit different. Let's do another interface. Update channel information payload, we'll call it. And then we'll run down the list. So game ID, and they're all optional. Yeah, I could leave them all. Yeah, we'll do that. So broadcaster language. The other thing I could do, right, is I could make this interface, and then when I use it or create a type from it that uses partial on it, right, to say that all the things are optional. But I guess I'll just do it this way. Tags, content classification labels, but it's not a string array. It is in fact an array that has an ID and is enabled. And that's an array. Is branded content. So those are the fields that we can pass in to update channel, to modify channel information. Just make this modify channel information, make it match.
It's an idea, Uncle Ben.
And then we can make some simple functions that call the APIs, right? Get channel information, broadcaster ID and access token. And then it does that, right? What is client? Where's that coming from? Yeah. Oh, it does. It is expected that we'll pass the client ID. Okay. So I guess we will pass the client ID. And then options. This is going to be this optional signal, abort signal. And then there we go. So for getting channel information, we do a get to channels. Broadcaster ID is broadcaster ID. We pass the authorization header and the client ID header. And we get back some JSON. Why don't I just make this an async function? And then we change this around a little bit. We say const response equals await. We need to do a little bit of work on the JSON here. So const JSON. Is this a promise? It is. So we want to await that as well. And then yeah, we can have some error handling here, and then we just want to return the first element in the data array, right? So, otherwise, throw. And then we want to export this function. There we go. So there's get channel information. And then we want another async function to modify channel information, right? All right, so we have broadcaster ID, access token, client ID, payload, options. Sure. And so we're doing a patch. Access token, client ID, content type, application JSON. We stringify the payload, which we're told that will obey this interface, and so should be ready to just be stringified. We pass our optional signal, and if we have a response body, does it? No. Okay. Yeah, ideally, we could look at returning specifics about the kind of error, but this is fine for us for now. Okay, so now I don't have to look at the docs anymore, hopefully. And we can move on. Yeah. So, one of the things right, so how did we end up here, right? So I was over here, I was thinking, well, what is the shape of this data coming into, was like, okay. I wasn't hearing the music for a little bit. Okay, there we go. I was thinking what the shape of the data was, and I started making an interface, and I was like, well, what is the interface, what should it actually look like? And then I was thinking about, well, we should look at what the API docs have going on there. And we have some things, right? We have, here's what we're getting back from get channel information, and here's what we're sending in modified channel information. So should this stream info look like this payload? Maybe. Here's a thought, right? So why don't I, like, we modeled this after what the API response is, but for instance, I could change this, specifically like this attribute here, to be more like this. And then we just modified this function to make it look closer to that. I kind of like doing that because it makes it simpler to deal with this. Like we're kind of like what am I trying to say? Trying to clean up the API, if you will, from the perspective of this client. Tags, title, broadcaster language, game ID. All the other fields are the same and have compatible types. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So if I do something like that, then what I need to do is, it's not going to know that that's wrong, right? Because like JSON dead data here is an any. It doesn't know that that's wrong. But what we can do is we can do some restructuring here where we do like this, and then we say content classification labels is actually that map, except that this is a list of strings, right? So this is actually just going to be a string, and then ID is just label. And if we're getting it back, then it must be enabled. Is kind of how I understand this should work. I guess we'll find out eventually. Okay, so that will make get channel information return this, which is good. So what I think I want to say, one is I want to export this interface. This is something that at a bigger scale may not necessarily be the right thing to do, right? So there's at least three kind of, there are three interfaces at play here, right? So there's what's the shape of the data that we're sending to Twitch's API? What is the shape of the data this function, these functions are either getting or giving back to their caller? And then what is the interface of, like, what is the shape of the data in the component? And I'm mixing those things together just to make it a little bit simpler. Yeah. Let's see, we're going to want that, and then we're going to want some functions here. We're going to want get channel information, and we're going to want modify channel information. Also, kind of at the component level here, there's something to be said for, and this is something that I've not been spending a lot of time on, that as this front end grows, I'm going to have, I think, the idea of components that have interaction with the outside world with these APIs and deal with statefulness and those sorts of concerns versus purely presentational components that are like, here's a text field, and managing kind of the internal state of like the UI for that. Here, I'm just going to dump everything into one thing, and then we'll peel those concerns out later. One of the nice things about the fact that modified channel information payload is all optional fields is that like we can just start with an empty object here. And what I will want to do, let's see, we have a profile. Actually, let's look at our profile. There we go. Here's the thing I was thinking about before. We're gonna have a broadcaster ID now, which is a string. There's probably gonna be things that might break. We'll see. Deal with it at some point. Okay, so to do use effect to fetch the stream information from Twitch, right? So we'll do that at some point. But let's do some UI stuff here, right? So what we can do is we can say value is streaminfo.title, and on change we want to do a thing. We want to set stream info. And this should be event. Okay. Very important that we create a new object where we spread the attributes from the object and then add our new thing in. Yeah, that should be fine. Yeah. Okay, so if I save this and then we go back to the UI and we finally have something to look at here. Here we go, title. I should be able to enter text into it. Great. Okay. So, go live notification is the next thing. Actually, here's something. There was not a go live notification option in the in the API. There's a title, but we didn't have anything to change the go live notification. Nope. Huh. Lots of cool APIs though. Is there a separate API, or is that just not something you can do through the API? We can start a commercial. We can get we're going to need this API to get the content classification labels, right? So this is going to list all the existing ones for our autocomplete. Also, there's a thing to get games, so we'll need that as well. Let's see. Hold on. Go live? No, live? No. I don't know. I guess that may not be a thing we can do. Which, I guess is fine. It's not something I change all that often anyway. So, just descope it. So I already have a dummy component. It doesn't have anything. In fact, let's at least return, oh, I don't know. Div to do. There, and then also for this one, so that at least, you know, they are actually valid components. And we're gonna do Twitch category. Yeah. It's not select. It's Twitch category autocomplete. There we go. All right. And then we have tags. Fortunately, we have a tag editor component. That might even work. Hold on. It's probably, is it value? Yeah, it's value. String or undefined is not a, okay, so if we don't have anything, just an empty array, please. And then tags. Okay, that looks good. So we have that, we have that. Stream language. Actually, here's a question. I think the API says that we take like some kind of ISO something or other. Let's see. Modify channel information, broadcaster language. ISO 639-1 2-letter language code. Set to other. Language isn't updated if language goes isn't a Twitch supported language. Okay. How do I want to do this? I guess I can do. Can we do a select? Hold on. What is it actually in MUI? It is a select. From a list of options. It should be a list of options. Interesting. Form control, input label, select. So these things. Form control is what I was thinking of before that I couldn't remember. Oops, how it works. Yeah, come back to that in a second. Form control, close that. Let's import those components. MUI. Nope. Import form control, input label, and select. Might as well import use effect while we're doing things. So this would be like EN for English. And what was other supposed to set to other if you use, okay, so we can just say other for other. Other, there we go. And we need a menu item component. There we go. And now, oh, it shouldn't be called age. Let's get rid of that. It's a language. There we go. English and other. Seems fine. We got a to-do there. We got a title. Looking good. And then full width. We can get rid of that. Content classification. Well, we have a component for that. Well, we will have a component for that. CCT autocomplete. There you go. And then is branded content. Copilot is finally catching up with us and is going to suggest a select with yes and no. Maybe I don't want that. Actually, what is the it's just the checkbox on the actual Twitch thing. We have we do a switch. With a label. Something like that. Everyone likes switches, right? Oh, and then we just automatically get buttons too, because Copilot's like, hey, you mentioned this in your comment. Let me go ahead and tell you about that now. Form group, form control label. Was that? Oh yeah, and switch, of course. Okay, so default checked is interesting. What is the actual presumably we can make it controlled with checked and on change. Okay, cool. And on change, update it. Okay. So does that work? Nope. Yes. I would like to, oh no, I can click over there. Interesting that, hold on. Okay, the default is unchecked. Good. Is there a component that we can use to make like a button group? There it is. Button group. Let's be something like actions for the form. Sure. Okay. There we go. At least they're grouped together more nicely. All right, so looks great, right? Save, refresh, and populate are kind of pretty good words there for that as well. So title, category, tag, stream language, content classification is branded, and then buttons. And then, oh, hey, look, Copilot has written for us a use effect that will get this channel information, although that's not the name of the function. And then that's not exactly what let's go ahead and implement it. So, we actually need a few things here. We need profile.twitch.broadcaster ID. Actually, one of the things that I added here into the API where we're passing in the client ID, we're not doing that because the client ID is coming from an environment variable, and we're using that. Just we're assuming that exists. Yeah, right there. Oh yeah, it's a global already. So we don't need to pass the client ID to those functions, which is why there wasn't an error before when the code generated using that. So there you go. All right. So Yeah. We'll get there. We'll get there. I don't see the point of like making this. Oh, I do see the point. The point is that we can't make this arrow function async because it doesn't play nicely with the type that useEffect expects. Because we need to have the ability to return a function from useEffect. So this allows us to like use await instead of having to do a promise chain, but I don't care. That's fine. So what is it called? It's called get channel information. What is the actual arguments? Yeah, access token as well. Yep. Dot then we get data. We set the stream info and we're good, right? Sort of. Worth noting that get channel information returns this interface, which has more fields than this, but that's not necessarily a problem. That just means there's going to be more stuff in stream info than what we declare that there should be. One thing I do want to do though is I want to have the ability to abort. So we're going to do const abort controller, new abort controller. We're going to pass that signal in and we're going to return a function that will allow us to cancel the request. Yeah. It should be good. No more to do. So that should mean that when I refresh the page, we don't get anything because I don't have a broadcaster ID because I've not re-authenticated since we added the thing that verifies the token and gets the broadcaster ID of the user that logged in. So I still not made this so that it doesn't leak the auth token in the URL. So I'm just going to move this to a different screen briefly. Oh, actually, you can have that one. I need this one because this is it where it has the profile, right? Oh, and I'm not connected anymore apparently. Interesting. Okay, connect switch. Success. Cool. Huh. All right, and then back to here. So if I go back to the profile, oh, it's broken. I must have broke the profile page or something. So we see rather the component, right? Because we're using a component, switch OAuth button. Right. So we call update and handle disconnects sets Twitch to have access token null. This should also wipe out the broadcaster ID because we're setting the whole object. If there is an access token, then we show these things. So presumably there isn't an access token. Do I believe it? Well, this is another thing I have to do off screen. Let's see, inspect, storage, IndexedDB, key value pairs, profile, access token null. Interesting. Well, I guess I can show this. So here's my profile, and you see the switch object, access token null. So, interesting. Okay. off screen again. Maybe if I connect to Twitch, we navigate. Let's see. So I see we do an XHR to OAuth validate, and we get a response, and it has a user ID. Hey, dear Marcus, how's it going? Currently trying to figure out why some of my changes have broken things. We're doing my very own stream manager to use instead of Twitch's, and just calling Twitch's API. Although it seems that some of the API they have doesn't allow you to set some of the things that the stream manager does in the actual provided UI. Dust everywhere. My windows were replaced with more modern ones. So dust from the construction work then? How old were your previous windows? Is this a big upgrade or a small one? Back a couple of years ago, I got some new windows for my basement. And those were, single pane of glass with wooden frames from, they might have been original from the house, to be honest, from 48. So they've been there a long time. So when we come back to, let's take a look at the Twitch callback page, right? So when we get the access token in result, we call validate access token, and I can see this request coming out. And then what's supposed to happen is that update profile is called. I guess technically this should happen first. Like, we're interested in catching the error from validate access token, which would represent the access token not being valid. Let's add some logging. We can log info here. Also, oh, right. Right, at this point, now we've made it ambiguous, right? Because this could be executed with the result from this. Okay, so maybe I'll change it around the other way. The then won't fail anyway. I guess unless update through, but it's not going to because it returns a promise. Yep, construction. Built in the 60s, it's more of an aesthetic energy efficiency thing. Yeah. I imagine, I don't think it hurt for my basement, but it's technically an unfinished space, so we don't really heat that space other than the heat that comes kind of conducts through the floor into it. But it's still, the new windows are nice. They're openable for one thing. And we're kind of it's for me thinking about if I ever wanted to finish the basement, then I would have nice windows that would be, suitable for a more finished space. Okay, so this should log. I'm still not going to be able to show this on stream, but I can refresh. Okay. And then we get, plus the new windows are further out, flush with the facade, which means you have more space in the window sill on the inside, right? There you go. Put some plants on there or something. Okay, so we get a user ID there. So why doesn't the profile have that data in it? Not a green thumb guy? Fair. Yeah, I bought a succulent a month or two ago, and I thought I was doing a good job. I think I must have overwatered it or something. Decorations, yeah. Well, that's yeah. It did not survive my care. Maybe it was not. I don't know. I thought succulents were something that could be kind of a indoor-ish plant with some light. I don't know. I don't know what I did wrong, but it didn't like me. Why? Okay, so if I look at storage, indexed DB, local forage, key value pairs. Here's the profile. Oh, now there's an access token and broadcaster ID there. Okay, so if I close that and I come back to here and I refresh, yay! All right, beautiful. Ish. I would like the tags to not stick out past the container. I guess we're, let's see. Network. So if I refresh the page and look at XHR, okay. Playing a gamble that the request headers would be below the fold there. So the request, right, and response. So here's the data coming back. What are you using for the layout on the info editor page? I think this is, well, it's all Material UI. The goal is going to be eventually to like push down all of the components that are from Material UI into my lowest level components, and then at some point if I want to switch away from that I can, but it's all just a mess right now. I'm just like throwing things at the wall, but currently there isn't much of a layout. Let's see, so specifically for the tag editor, like it's just a box, it's just a form, there's no styling, and seeing what sticks exactly. I just want something that can conceivably work, and then we can refine it. So, but the tag editor is, this is a stack, apparently. A stack of chips, direction row, which is probably not what I want. I probably actually want like a grid here. Or something. I'm guessing this component, let's open this. It's ideal for one-dimensional layout. So it doesn't, I'm guessing it doesn't wrap. Yeah, this is all TypeScript. That is correct. And unfortunately, Twitch wants to run an ad, so I'm gonna take a break here for a couple of minutes. Go stretch my legs and get some more water. And I'll come back and we'll keep on working on this front end. I did put TypeScript in the tags, right? Good, I did. All right, BRB.